The midday sun hammered down on the cracked asphalt of the dusty roadside diner, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer and silence heavy. Outside, 3 massive Harley-Davidson cruisers, polished chrome gleaming despite the grit, stood sentinel. They belonged to the Black Knights Motorcycle Club, a name whispered in fear and respect across state lines, a brotherhood known for running the ragged edge of the law. They weren't heroes. They were the ones the heroes fought against, or so the world believed. Inside the diner, the 3 riders, Grizz, the towering, bearded president with eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 secrets, Wrench, the quiet, meticulous mechanic whose hands could dismantle and rebuild anything, and Ghost, the young, fast-talking vice president, sat nursing lukewarm coffee. Their cuts, heavy leather vests bearing the terrifyingly intricate patch of a snarling black panther, made the other patrons give them a wide berth. They were discussing logistics, territory, and the constant, weary tension of maintaining their way of life. But today, the rumble wasn't from their engines. It came from a booth across the room. It started with a low, tense mumble, the kind of domestic argument that everyone pretends not to hear. A woman, tired and brittle, sat opposite a man whose face was flushed crimson, his voice rising in an ugly, uncontrolled swell. In between them, hunched low over his barely touched plate of fries, was a boy no older than 9. His name was Leo, and he was trying to disappear. He clutched a worn, battered action figure, a superhero whose cape was shredded and whose power seemed useless in this small, suffocating booth. The argument escalated quickly. The man, a suit and tie type, utterly out of place in this greasy spoon setting, yet somehow perfectly embodying a certain kind of contained, dangerous rage, slammed his hand on the Formica table. The plastic sugar dispenser jumped, and Leo flinched, shrinking further into himself. The woman tried to whisper, to de-escalate, her voice trembling. "Don't. Not here. Not in front of him." But the fuse was lit. "He needs to learn respect, Lisa," the man roared, finally breaking the diner's strained silence. "He's been acting out since I got here. You need to control him." "Control me?" The boy's voice, small but sharp, finally cut through the tension. He lifted his head, tears welling in his eyes, not tears of sadness, but of pure, helpless fury. He looked directly at the man, the supposed authority figure, and screamed 3 words that hung in the air like shattered glass. "You're not my dad." The silence that followed was instant and absolute. Every eye in the diner snapped to the booth. The man went utterly still, his face draining of color before it refilled with a truly terrifying, cold-blooded malice. He slowly reached across the table, his hand wrapping tightly around Leo's small wrist, forcing the boy's grip to release his action figure, which clattered on the floor. "You listen to me, you little brat," the man hissed, his voice now dangerously low, far worse than the shouting. "I am the man in this house. You do as I say." He started to pull the boy toward him, a motion that spoke not of discipline, but of threat and impending harm. In that paralyzed moment, while everyone else looked away, pretending to check their phones or their coffee, 3 figures moved: Grizz, Wrench, and Ghost. Grizz, the club president, didn't raise his voice. He didn't even hurry. He simply slid out of the booth, his leather cut creaking softly. The move was economical, powerful, and utterly unavoidable. The distance between the Black Knight's table and Leo's booth was only about 15 feet, but to the rest of the patrons, Grizz seemed to cross a mile of moral landscape in a single stride. He walked straight up to the arguing family. The man holding Leo's wrist glanced up, irritated, seeing only a large, intimidating biker. "Mind your own business, tough guy," the man snapped, trying to reassert his control, his small domestic tyranny. Grizz just looked down at the hand clamped around Leo's arm. His face, usually a mask of weary indifference, was now something else, a silent promise of irreversible action. "Let go of the kid," Grizz said, his voice a gravelly rumble that barely cleared a whisper, yet carried the weight of a crashing engine. The man chuckled, a short, nervous, dismissive sound. "Excuse me? Who the hell do you think you are?" "This is my son. He just told you otherwise," Grizz countered, his eyes flicking to Leo, who was staring up at the giant biker, his fear momentarily replaced by a flicker of bewildered hope. The boy's wrist was red beneath the man's tightening grip. Wrench and Ghost had silently positioned themselves, not aggressively but strategically. Wrench stood by the exit, blocking any quick escape, and Ghost stood behind the man's chair, his hands tucked into his worn denim jeans. They weren't spoiling for a fight. They were ensuring a specific, non-negotiable outcome. They were a perimeter of protection. "I said, let go," Grizz repeated. This time, there was no request. It was a deadline. The suit and tie man, fueled by adrenaline and wounded pride, finally realized the depth of the threat. He saw the Black Panther patch, the cold indifference in the biker's eyes, and the quiet, terrible authority they possessed. His face went pale again, the bravado collapsing like a house of cards. He slowly, reluctantly, released the boy's wrist. Leo snatched his arm back, rubbing the raw skin, his eyes still locked on Grizz. Grizz didn't touch the man. He simply stood there, a wall of leather and muscle, giving the man a chance to save what little dignity he had left. "You need to leave," Grizz stated. "Now." The man, clearly defeated and unnerved by the silent, judging presence of the outlaw bikers, scrambled out of the booth. He shot a look of pure venom at Lisa, the woman, and stammered, "This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over." Grizz took a single, slow step toward him. The man didn't wait to hear the rest. He practically ran for the door, and after a brief, tense moment, the sound of his sedan engine peeled out of the parking lot. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was a quiet of relief, of shock. Grizz turned his attention to the boy. Leo, still trembling, looked up at the fearsome biker, who had just acted as his unlikely guardian angel. "You okay, kid?" Grizz asked, his voice softening, dropping its commanding edge. Leo nodded once, weakly. Then he looked down at the floor, searching for his lost hero, the shredded action figure. He had to bend over and crawl slightly into the booth to retrieve it. Grizz crouched down slowly, a movement that looked like a mountain settling. He brought his intimidating presence down to the boy's level, his massive hand resting lightly on the edge of the booth. "That your favorite guy?" he asked, nodding toward the toy. Leo held the toy protectively. "Yeah, he's Captain Justice. He always wins. He looks like he's been through a few hard scraps," Grizz observed, a faint, almost invisible smile touching the corners of his beard. "Just like the best of us." Then Grizz looked at the mother, Lisa. Her eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of shame, gratitude, and deep exhaustion. She struggled for words, her face wet with silent tears. I don't know how to thank you. That was..." He gets like that, especially when he drinks. He's not his father, not his biological father. But he tries to. Grizz cut her off with a gentle shake of his head. "Doesn't matter who he is, ma'am. Doesn't matter what title he claims. A man doesn't do that. Not to a woman, not to a kid. Period." He paused, his gaze steady and serious. "You need help, Lisa. Real help, not just getting him out of the diner." Lisa stared at the floor, wrestling with her pride and her fear. She knew this was her chance. She knew the Black Knights, their reputation, their reach. They were the last people you'd expect to ask for help. But sometimes, the outlaws were the only ones who lived by a true code of honor. She looked back at Grizz, and the words tumbled out, desperate and raw. I don't know what to do next. He won't let us go." Grizz stood up, his gaze sweeping the room, letting everyone know this was their business now. He nodded to Wrench and Ghost, who immediately began to move. Wrench went to a nearby payphone on the wall, and Ghost walked over to the counter, pulling out a handful of bills to cover the Black Knight's bill and the family's untouched lunch. Grizz turned back to Lisa and Leo. "All right, Lisa," he said, his voice decisive. "The Black Knights have a code. We don't interfere with civilian life, usually, but we also don't stand by and watch a kid get hurt. You and Leo are coming with us. We'll take you to the club's safe house, a place nobody knows about. You'll be safe there for as long as you need. We'll call the right people. We'll handle the logistics of getting you clear of this situation. No questions, no judgments. We just want to see that smile back on the kid's face." Leo, still holding his damaged Captain Justice, finally looked up, his face breaking into a hesitant, tear-streaked grin. "The Black Knights, the bad guys, had just offered sanctuary. The most dangerous men in the room were the only ones willing to be the heroes. Grizz extended his massive hand, not toward the boy, but toward the mother. "Take my hand, Lisa. Let's get out of here. It's time for a change of scenery." The ride out of the diner parking lot was a silent parade of chrome and defiance. Lisa, clutching Leo tightly, was wedged comfortably onto the pillion seat behind Wrench. Leo, still holding his action figure, looked over his mother's shoulder, watching the world blur by. He wasn't scared anymore. The roaring engines and the vibration of the mighty motorcycles felt like a protective force field. Grizz and Ghost flanked them, their powerful bikes cutting through the wind, their presence a silent promise of security. They were riding not to a clash, but to sanctuary. The Black Knight's safe house wasn't what Lisa expected. It wasn't a fortified bunker or a seedy den, but a sprawling older farmhouse nestled deep in the rolling countryside, surrounded by high fences and old growth trees. It was quiet, isolated, and most importantly, it felt impossibly safe. Inside, the house was surprisingly clean and organized, furnished simply but comfortably. It was clear the club used it for exactly what Grizz had promised: discretion and protection. As soon as they arrived, the club's well-oiled machine began to work. This was the true core of the Black Knights: loyalty and mutual aid, only now directed outside their own ranks. Wrench, ever the practical one, ensured the house was provisioned with food and supplies, specifically asking Leo what his favorite snacks were. Ghost, using a burner phone and coded language, started running perimeter checks and contacting a discreet network of legal aid and social workers the club occasionally worked with, people who understood confidentiality and urgent cases. Grizz sat Leo and Lisa down in the spacious rustic kitchen. He poured them both juice and coffee, a hulking man serving drinks, his demeanor entirely gentle. Leo, emboldened by the safety and the sheer novelty of his situation, started to talk. He didn't talk about the argument. He talked about Captain Justice, his torn cape, and how he wished he had a new superpower. Grizz listened patiently, his enormous frame resting easily on a wooden chair. "A new power, huh?" Grizz mused, stroking his thick beard. "If I could give him one, it wouldn't be strength or flying. It would be the power to make people really listen. The kind of listening that means you hear the heart, not just the words." Leo nodded seriously. "Yeah." So they stopped screaming. Lisa watched the interaction, tears blurring her vision once more. But these were tears of profound relief. This man, an outlaw, a figure the media would label a menace, was speaking to her son with more respect and understanding than his own stepfather had ever shown. "You have no idea what this means, Grizz," she whispered, her voice husky. "He's been so scared for so long. And you stepped in." Grizz waved a dismissive hand. "We saw something that wasn't right, Lisa. We fixed it. That's what a brotherhood does. That's what a man does." He looked pointedly at her. "The difference is, we don't pretend to be the good guys. We just are when it counts." Over the next few days, the Black Knights managed the escape for Lisa and Leo with the precision of a military operation. Ghost's contacts, a dedicated, semi-retired social worker named Eleanor, and a family lawyer who specialized in volatile custody cases, were brought in. They worked entirely remotely, never meeting the Black Knights face-to-face, preserving the club's anonymity and the family's security. The legal strategy was clear: document the abuse, establish a new, undisclosed location, and file for an immediate, full protection order against the stepfather. The club provided the financial backing for the initial legal fees and the rent for a small apartment several states away, a clean start. The money, Grizz explained simply, came from their legitimate businesses, the auto shops, and the security firms they ran. The bad money, he added with a grim smile, was used for other things. This was the good money. One evening, before the plan was executed, Grizz found Leo sitting alone on the porch swing, mending his Captain Justice action figure with a piece of tape. He walked over, carrying a gift in his massive hand. "Wrench and I were talking," Grizz said. "That cape still needs a little work." He handed the boy a small, beautifully carved wooden motorcycle, detailed down to the engine fins. It was a masterpiece, clearly made by Wrench, whose talent lay in more than just engines. "Wow," Leo breathed, turning the tiny bike over in his hand. "It needs a rider," Grizz said. He then pulled out a small, perfect patch of black leather, carefully cut and stitched. It was a miniature version of the Black Knight's club patch, the snarling panther, complete with the motto, "Deeds not words," on the bottom rocker. "We don't give this to just anyone, kid," Grizz explained, his voice serious. "This means you're under our protection. It means we saw your courage. It takes guts to yell at a bully, especially when that bully is bigger than you. You were brave, Leo. You stood up for your mom even when you were terrified." He carefully taped the tiny patch onto the chest of Captain Justice. The superhero was now a Black Knight. "You can take him anywhere you go," Grizz finished. "And you remember, we are out there. And if anyone ever hurts you or your mom, you know who to call. We might be the bad guys to the rest of the world, but we protect our own. And now, you're one of ours." Leo looked at the toy, the new, strong patch covering the old tear. His eyes were bright, not with tears, but with a deep, abiding respect. "Thank you, Grizz," he whispered. "You are the best heroes." The following morning, the transfer was ready. Lisa and Leo, with fresh IDs and a bus ticket to a new life, stood by Wrench's truck, which was loaded with the few belongings they had managed to salvage. Grizz handed Lisa a sealed envelope. "Emergency contact numbers, the lawyer's card, and enough to get you started without touching the rent money," he explained. "Don't open it until you're on the bus. No calls, no texts. You disappear. That's how we keep you safe." Lisa reached out, her hand finding Grizz's heavily tattooed forearm. She squeezed it, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "We won't forget this. Either of us." Grizz just nodded, his gaze sweeping over the open, innocent face of Leo, who waved his wooden bike like a banner. "Go be safe, kid," Grizz said, a genuine warm smile finally breaking through his hard exterior. As the truck pulled away, carrying the small family toward their fresh start, the roar of the Black Knight's engines faded into the gentle hum of the countryside. The three bikers stood watching until the vehicle was just a distant speck. They didn't seek recognition, didn't want praise, and would never tell this story outside their small circle. To the world, they remained outlaws, men in black leather with reputations built on fear. But in a quiet moment in the heartland of America, a little boy knew the truth. He knew that sometimes the only people willing to stand up for the innocent are the ones the world judges hardest. He knew that real heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they ride massive, loud motorcycles and wear the patch of a snarling Black Panther. And they live by a simple, brutal code: protect the weak, and always, always let your deeds speak louder than words. Leo finally had his Captain Justice, but he also knew his true heroes were Grizz and the Black Knights MC.